one of the most amazing fruits on the planet is the fruit that contains the seed that we know of as cacao. And cacao is actually the scientific name for this little hard-shelled tropical fruit that grows right off the stem of the tree. It's not like, most other fruits like apples will grow off the branches. Cacao grows right off the stem. It's really interesting. See how it grows right off the trunk of the tree? So its scientific name is theobroma cacao, and that's why you sometimes hear it pronounced cacao, and sometimes you hear it pronounced cocoa. And really there's a kind of an interesting history story about the name cacao versus cocoa. Originally it was called cacao, and that was the name that the Mayans gave it to describe the fruit that grows off of in the trunk of the tree. And so basically, back in the days of the Mayans and the Aztecs, the little seeds that grow inside of here, and let me just move one forward here, you can see that this is what it looks like when you cut it open. It's a fruit that has about 30 to 40 seeds. Oops, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna make sure I'm not gonna fall off of this thing, but I'm going to give myself some slack here. You can see that it has about 30 to 40 seeds in each fruit. And those seeds are encased in a white pulp. And I learned a lot about the fruit and all of the products that can be made from the seeds, which are chocolate. When I went to Hawaii back in 2010, went to a farmer market, and there was a stand there that was advertising a chocolate farm tour. And I thought, woo, I gotta go to that because I need to find out more about this wonderful plant. So we went into basically had to drive up into the mountains of the island of Kauai. And when we got up there, it was just this amazing tropical rainforest. It wasn't really a farm. It was just a plot of land where they were growing all sorts of things. It wasn't just the cacao trees. They had coconuts, they had coffee bean trees, they had lychee fruit, they had sugar cane. It was a lot of all of those tropical plants that are all foods for us, by the way, all plant-bearing, seed-yielding fruits. And so inside of the cacao, as you can see, there's all these little seeds. They're encased in this white pulp, and the way that we get what we know as chocolate is we actually scoop those seeds out of the pod, and then if you take the white pulp off of it and ate a little seed, it would be super, super bitter. Like even more bitter than probably most of you who have tried just baker's chocolate, like the chocolate that's not sweetened with any sugar. So if you've ever tasted that, the seed of the cacao plant is actually even more bitter than that. And the reason why is because when the seed is raw like that in the fruit, there are specific phytonutrient compounds that are in the seeds that have not yet been activated. And so the way they get activated is through a natural process of fermentation. So they scoop the seeds out and they put them in these big square fermentation or planter boxes. They're like the little planter boxes, and they just fill it up with those cacao seeds with the pulp still around it. And then they just cover it up with banana leaves. And through the natural heat and moisture that's in the tropical rainforest, the white pulp stuff starts to just kind of melt off. And what's activated inside of those seeds are the compounds that give them their flavor and aroma of chocolate. So there actually has to be something that happens with these seeds before they taste like anything that we would recognize as chocolate. Someone discovered that many, many, many years ago. It was probably the Mayans or Aztecs. Then they would take these little seeds once they've been fermented, and you can basically crush them or grind them with a mortar and pestle, which is how they did it back in the Mayan days, and then it becomes something that you could add to a drink, like a cocoa drink. And back in the Mayan days and the Aztecs as well, that's how they consumed it. They consumed it as a cocoa drink. And often they would consume it several times a day, every day. Can you imagine how amazing, that you would drink cocoa every day. And in fact, back then, these seeds were so valuable. When the Spaniards came over, they would actually use the cacao seed as money for trade for other items from people from other places in the world. That's how valuable the cacao was. And in fact, it's actually even still valuable like that today, because cacao is one of the biggest cash crops in the world. One really interesting thing about the plant is that it only grows in the tropical belt of the planet. It doesn't grow any farther north than 20 degrees latitude and no farther south than 20 degrees. So it's only in that belt. So you find it growing in places like Hawaii, South America, and even over in places in Africa. So it's a very temperamental little plant. It only likes certain temperatures and certain moisture. So it's a very important little thing.